everybody, welcome back to Cottoverdi. My name's Annette and today it is miserable outside. It's going to rain all day. So I am doing something really fun and exciting and I'm sowing some seeds indoors. Now this is a combination video because I'm going to be sowing a few different varieties. What I'll do also is put some pictures up on the screen of what I'm sowing, the different varieties, and if I've got any videos of them in my garden, I'll include those too so you can see how they looked in my garden, which I think's always really useful to see how they look in somebody's garden rather than, you know, just the pictures that you get on seed packets, which don't always show how the whole plant's going to look. So for each of the different seeds, I'll explain what the preferable environment and sowing method is for these seeds, but lots of people have different methods for some of these seeds and it works better for them to do it a certain way, but this is how I do it and this is how I've had success in the past. What I'm going to try to do this year is limit how many different varieties of each plant group I'm going to grow. So rather than growing every variety of seeds that I've got, I've whittled it down and in most cases I'm trying to just grow 4. Now if you've been following along with my sowing journey, you'll know that I sowed loads of different varieties of snaps and penstemon and clematis, but going forwards, there are certain varieties that I know do really well for me. I'm so sorry, Cosmo is making a right racket in the background and he seems to do it. Whenever I'm talking to camera, he goes mad for this particular toy. I'm so sorry. Hopefully you can hear me above the rattling of his little balls. I don't want to take it away from him, he loves it too much. Anyway, let's get started. So with the phlox, I'm sowing 4 different varieties today. These are annual phlox, by the way. They are not the perennials. You can get perennials, but I tend to buy those as bare roots more often than not. But I sow the annuals. Obviously, it's a lot easier and cheaper if we sow them. So that's what I do. So I'm sowing creme brulee, which is a gorgeous sort of cafe au lait colour really. It's got lots of different shades in it, it's absolutely gorgeous. I'm also sowing blushing bride, which is a firm favourite of mine. It's just a perfect combination of dusty pinks and whites, and there's less cream in it actually, it's more white, so it's like a nice really clear colour with just lots of different variations of pink patterns or stripes on it. I'm also sowing Phlox Brilliant. I did not get good germination from Phlox Brilliant last year, so I'm going to probably oversow it this year. I'm not sure what happened or whether I've got a dodgy seed packet. This packet's actually from 2022, so I'll definitely be oversowing it because germination rates decrease as the seed gets older. And Phlox Brilliant is a lovely bright pink colour. And then I'm also sowing Phlox of Sheep, which is this gorgeous combination. It's like a mix, so you get sort of, it's very pastel. So you get pastel apricots and pinks and a bit of the sort of creamy colours in there. It's really, really pretty. I love Phlox of Sheep. So with phlox, the most important thing to know is that it needs darkness to germinate. So what I tend to do is sow my seed on the surface of the wet compost, and then I will upturn a seed tray with no holes in it, and I will put that upside down over my phlox tray with phlox seeds in it. I'll show you what I do, but that's what I do, and then that's how I leave them to germinate, and then I check them on a really regular basis because as soon as they germinate they want light, so they don't become leggy looking for the light, because if you leave that lid on and, you know, even for a day, then they could grow like an inch just searching for the light. And it's much better not to have that happen to your seedlings. They'll be much healthier if we can make sure they get light when they need it. So then I take the lid off. Now phlox need about 18 to 20 degrees to germinate well. And so I'll put them on my heat mat and they should germinate in 2 to 3 weeks. The next seed I'm sowing is Scabious or Scabiosa or pincushion flower. And these are all the annual Scabious. I tend to buy the perennials as bare roots or as small plug plants. and they are gorgeous and slightly different looking flowers, but I really like certain Scabious or pincushion flowers to grow as annuals. And this year I'm basically growing the reds and one white, and I'm not growing any of the other colours because these are the colours that I prefer, and I'm not growing anything specifically like the Skirnkugel, I think it's called, something like that, which we grow for the seed pods. I'm not doing that either, so I'm just growing the reds. So the reds I'm growing this year are Merlot red, absolutely gorgeous. This one grows to 90 centimetres tall, and I'm growing the tall double red, which grows to 80 centimetres tall. I'm growing, and the reason I'm telling you is because they grow to different heights. So I'm growing Beaujolais bonnets, absolutely gorgeous. This one only grows to 60 centimetres tall. And I'm growing Burgundy Bow, which grows to 60 centimetres tall. And then the white that I'm growing is called Snow Maiden, and this one grows to 90 centimetres tall. So unlike Phlox, Scabious need light to germinate, and the Scabious come in two different ways. So they'll either come with the seed casing on, which looks a little bit like a tiny shuttlecock, or they'll come without it. It just depends how your seed supplier sends them out. If they come with the shuttlecock seed casing on, you do not need to take that off. You can just sow that. What I tend to do with the Scabious is I make a little dib in the soil, maybe half a centimetre deep, just like a little dib, and I drop my seed in there, and I don't cover it because, as I said, they need light to germinate. The Scabious will also go on the heat mats. They need 18 to 20 degrees again to germinate, and they should germinate within 2 weeks, about 10 to 12 days, something like that. Next I'm growing Malope. Malope is an absolute must-have for me. There's a particular variety that I grew last year called Vulcan, and it's this gorgeous, deep pink, kind of raspberry, cherry. It's got really shiny petals. It's absolutely beautiful. It's a standout in my flower bed. I love the way it moved in the breeze. I love the size of the flowers. What else can I say about this? Just to sell this particular plant to you, it's so worth growing. I love Malope and I love the Vulcan. I'm going to do an experiment. So I've got some seed that I sowed last year, obviously. That's from 2022. That's when I received the seed. But last year I also saved my own seed. So that's fresh 2023 seed, and I've got a little packet of that. So I'm going to sow both. I'm sowing the old seed and the new seed, and I'm going to treat them in exactly the same way, and I'm just going to see whether there is a difference in how they germinate and how they grow. I'm hoping that since the Malope weren't with any other Malopes, that's the only one I grew last year, that they're all going to come back as Vulcan. I'm also growing this year, I'm going to grow the Alba, which is the white version, and I'm growing a new one to me, which is called Malope Rose. So it's like a lighter pink version. So the Malope like really warm temperatures to germinate, so between 20 and 30 degrees, but they should germinate in 1 to 2 weeks. So, in 7 to 14 days, we should definitely be seeing some little seedlings poking up, and then they really grow quite fast. And they were one of the first things that I planted out into my flower beds last year. The next seed I'm sowing is super exciting, and it is a saved seed. And so I'll tell you what's happened. So last year, in my corridor flower bed, I found an Aquilegia. I left a self-seeded Aquilegia in there. I quite often leave them in to see what happens. I left one in, and it was a lovely purple stripy version, and I really thought it was incredibly pretty. And I searched and searched online to see whether I could find anything similar, and I couldn't. So I've obviously left the plant in there in the hope that it'll come back again. But what I also did was I saved some seed. Now, there were a lot of other Aquilegias in the flower bed. So I don't know whether it's going to come true from seed, but I thought it's worth sowing my own Aquilegia Cottoverdi to see whether it germinates and grows the same plant. Now, I probably should have done this in January, and it's now February the 22nd. So I might be a little bit late to sow Aquilegia this year, but I'm going to give it a go. It's just one row of seeds. It won't take up too much room, and I really want to see whether the seeds from this plant grow some more of the lovely striped purple Aquilegia. So Aquilegia really, they probably could do with cold stratification. It's not going to get it from me. So I haven't had these in the fridge or freezer or anything like that. I'm just going to sow the seeds. If you are sowing Aquilegia, I would advise maybe doing it in the autumn. You might get better results doing it that way, but I'm definitely going to try. So Aquilegia need light to germinate, so I'm not going to cover the seed, and they need over 20 degrees as well. So I will probably keep them on the heat mats. Yeah, I'm going to keep them on the heat mats. And then, you know, in about 30 days or less, hopefully, I'll see whether I get any seedlings from this. So the last seed I'm sowing today is Bupleurum, or hare's ear. I'm not sure why it's called hare's ear. Maybe it's the shape of the leaf. Not sure. Anyway, the first one I'm sowing is Griffithii. I think this is very readily available and commonly sown by flower growers, flower farmers, because it looks really good in a bouquet. But it only grows to 60 centimetres. So I'm also sowing a Bupleurum called Garibaldi. And this one grows to 1 metre 20. So that's, what is that, 4 foot? So I really want to sow Garibaldi to see whether I can get longer stems on my Bupleurum. And then the last one that I'm sowing is a hardy shrub, and it's called Bupleurum fruticosum. So this one is, you know, it's a shrub, so it will be there forever. It grows to 2.4 metres tall. I mean, that's a big shrub. Supposedly I should be sowing this one outside, but I'm not going to. I'm going to sow it into a seed tray like my other Bupleurums. So the Bupleurum is notoriously difficult to germinate, but when I've sown it in the past, it hasn't been that hard for me. I'm probably speaking too soon and it's going to be dreadful. I won't get any germination this year. But the important thing to know about Bupleurum when you're sowing it is that it needs colder temperatures. So don't use a heat mat. It will germinate best between 13 and 16 degrees. They also need light to germinate, and your seed should germinate between 7 and 30 days. So after about a week, start checking. Obviously, with all the seeds that I'm sowing today, it's important to keep them moist, but not overwatered, because they're not going to like that and they'll probably just rot. So once I've sown the seeds, I put them all into a tray of water. Even if the compost was moist, I bottom water them again. And the great thing about vermiculite is you can see that it changes colour when it's wet. And then I drain them off in the sink. And then I take them through to my grow room, which I'll do now. So this is my grow room. You absolutely don't need a grow room to grow any of these. They could be grown in a greenhouse or they could be grown on a kitchen windowsill. I happen to have a grow room because I start so many plants from seed. And it's a bit echoey in here, so I apologise for that. And my mic is working. I had a problem with my last video where it didn't record properly. Anyway, the phlox do not need light to germinate, so they're on the top shelf where there aren't any lights. And I take a seed tray with no holes in it, and I'm literally just going to put it on top like this and cover them. Now we could cover them with compost, but I don't think they want to be planted too deeply, so it's best not to. You could use like an upturned bucket or anything. I'd advise against using a piece of cardboard, which I've tried to use in the past, simply because as soon as those seeds germinate, they're going to hit the cardboard, and then you'll have squashed and bent over seedlings if you don't like catch them and check them every 2 hours or something. So I give them a lid with a bit of room in them. So this here is the Bupleurum. Got all 3 Bupleurums in here with a dome on them. This heat mat is not on, but they're getting light. And then this is the Malope in here. So this heat mat on this shelf is on, so they're getting heat and light. The Scabious are behind, they're getting heat and light as well. And the extra 5th Scabious is in the back there. So these are getting heat and light. The Bupleurum isn't. And the Phlox is getting heat, but no light. That might be super confusing. I hope not. I hope I've been really clear, and whichever seed you're wanting to sow, you've got enough information to go ahead and do that. Anyway, I'm really excited about all of these. Oh, I forgot to tell you where the Aquilegia is. The Aquilegia is under light with heat. I don't know whether they're going to germinate because they possibly needed cold stratification. They should have been sown in the autumn, but we'll see. I've got more seeds saved, so I can try again in the autumn if I remember this time. Well, I think that's it for today. I've sown all the seeds that I really wanted to sow today. I do have some transplanting to do and potting on from things that have grown already, and I need to move them on to their own individual cells. So I'll possibly film that over the next few days and show you that. I hope that if you were looking for information about sowing any of these particular seeds, that you've had enough information. If you need more information, do put something in the comments below and I'll get back to you. If you've enjoyed this video, then please do give it a like because it really does help me. And if you want to see more videos like this, then subscribe to my channel. I would really love that. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you all next time.